I'm Emily Lunt, and I believe with my whole heart and soul that our homes are places where we can seek and love the truth, celebrate beauty, and learn good things every single day. That's why I'm educating my kids at home, and I know you can do it too. Welcome to Heart and Soul Homeschool. Well, I'm so thrilled to have my guest with me today. Her name is Megan Rolofson, and she works with Focus on the Family as a project administrator for one of my family's very favorite things in the whole world, the Adventures in Odyssey program. Megan, welcome.
Thank you so much, Emily. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, thanks for spending some time with us. Before we jump in here, do you want to just give us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. I moved out to Colorado Springs about 3.5 years ago to start working for Adventures in Odyssey. But I also grew up listening to Adventures in Odyssey pretty much since the beginning. And so it's been really fun to get reconnected with that and kind of go back and listen. And now it's come full circle. I have 5 nephews who really enjoy it. So my family is in Nebraska. That's where I'm from. But I moved out here to start working at Focus and with Adventures in Odyssey, like I said, about 3.5 years ago.
That's super. It's so fun. Kids just bring such life to a family. And so I know in my family, when all the kids start getting a little bit older, I have a particular uncle who's always like, it's time for another baby. Who's going to have it? And so it is fun to experience things from your childhood with kids and now nieces and nephews. That's so great. So my daughter would tell you that she just doesn't even believe this is possible. But for those who might not know, can you tell us what Adventures in Odyssey is?
Sure. Adventures in Odyssey is a kids' radio drama that is geared towards kids that are 8 to 12-year-olds. However, it is something that the entire family can enjoy together. And that's really what we want. Yes, the lessons are geared towards 8 to 12-year-olds, but we want this to be something that the family enjoys together. The audio drama is based in a town called Odyssey. And then one of the main characters is Mr. Whitaker, and he is kind of the grandfather of everybody in town. And he owns Wits End, which is an ice cream shop, but also a discovery emporium that allows the kids in Odyssey to learn lots of different lessons through creativity, through invention. And so you can find a lot of lessons and learn a lot of lessons by just spending some time at Wits End. It's about a 25 to 30 minute audio drama. So real easy to sit down and listen to and not take up too much time, unless you're someone like my family where they just keep it going and it just auto rolls into the next one. But that's Adventures in Odyssey in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's amazing, Megan, listening to you talk because I'm trying to think the first time that I listened to Odyssey, I think I would have been maybe 4 or 5 years old. So I loved it from the beginning. My mom and dad, a package of cassette tapes in a big box came in the mail. And I remember that. And ever since then, my brother and I, they went on car trips with us. We listened to them as we went to bed. It was just, I don't remember a part of my life when I wasn't listening to Odyssey, honestly. And so it's amazing as I have kids of my own, how much I remember. They've gone back. We started from the very beginning and it's aged well, hasn't it?
Yes, it really has. And that's one of the fun things about Odyssey is the people in Odyssey don't seem to age, but the lessons are very timeless. And so I'm similar to you, Emily. I don't remember a time in my childhood where I wasn't listening to Adventures in Odyssey. We lived out in the country, and so driving into church took about 30 minutes. And so it was perfect timing to turn on the radio and get in the car and get to church or get to Awana or whatever we were doing that evening. But yeah, the lessons are timeless. The stories are timeless. So it really just doesn't age, and it's been aging very well.
Yeah, I hope I do. I hope I do likewise. So I've been noticing, Megan, on Instagram, the Adventures in Odyssey account has really been advertising, I guess you'd call it, to homeschoolers and saying, hey, Adventures in Odyssey is a great resource for your homeschooler. And I think it is. We use it in our homeschool. We use the history episodes. We use the Bible episodes. So much you can do with it. But from your point of view, why are you guys reaching out to homeschoolers right now?
Yeah, so homeschool families are some of our biggest fans. And with the Adventures in Odyssey Club, we're able to see the demographics of the families that are members, and a good majority of them are homeschool families. But there are a lot of families that still don't know. And so being able to just share what we truly believe is a great tool and a great resource. Um, and kind of to go along with just some of the fundamental values of homeschooling and to just engage students in the joy of learning. We think Adventures in Odyssey is a perfect fit for that and a perfect addition to the curriculum. So that's why we're doing a little bit more reaching out specifically to homeschool families.
Yeah, well, I think it's so smart. And also, as you were talking, I was just thinking I have a little list that we're going to go through of ways that Odyssey enriches my family's life. But just kind of an additional thing, homeschool families spend on average just thousands more hours together than families who use the traditional school model. And so that's a lot of time to fill. And so Odyssey is just a great way to do that. That's not a screen. You're still engaged, your mind's still working. And so you're right. There are so many ways. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to jump into my little list here. And I think you'll agree with some of these. But some of the ways that our family loves Odyssey, the reasons why, this as a mom, this is so amazing to me. It engages my kids' minds and imaginations versus just encouraging them to veg out. Do you hear that? I'm sure you hear that all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, we hear so many stories of families that are listening together, and it engages your imagination. And it's so fun to hear from families when they come to visit and they describe what they think either Wits End looks like or Mr. Whitaker or how those different interactions. Now, some of those things, of course, we have artwork for. But it's really fun to talk to them and be like, okay, where do you think the soda shop would be? Or where do you think the door is? Or how do you think you get to the imagination station? And so really just creating that picture. And like you said, not just vegging out with screens.
Yeah, and I'm wondering as we're talking if that's part of why Odyssey has aged so well because the listener creates that picture. And so we probably, when I was a child, it probably looked like things looked when I was a child. And now it looks like things look now for my kids. And I think that's kind of one of the hallmarks probably to its success is that, you guys have given just enough information to make it really real without telling us always every little detail.
Absolutely. Well, and it's even kind of fun with working with this team. Even from the sound designers to the different writers to the different producers, we all have different pictures of some of things in our minds of how like Wits End Soda Shop is set up or the imagination station room. So even those of us that are creating it get to engage our imaginations as well.
Yeah, that's so fun. I think this sounds like a really fun job that you have, Megan.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a good team.
Good. So one of the things that gets talked about a lot in the homeschooling world is family culture. It's something that I think every homeschool mom and homeschool dad is trying to instill in their kids, just kind of that this is us, this is our family, these are the things we value. And Odyssey just really naturally does that. As I think back over my childhood, I mentioned this before, every road trip that we went on, Odyssey came with us. We were listening to these stories, not just my brother and I, but also my mom and dad. And so the characters and the stories became very dear to all of us. And we really bonded over that. And as I say it out loud, like it sounds kind of crazy. I feel like it's one of those things, if you get it, you get it, right? But truly it has bonded our family together, just experiencing things together through these stories. And so I think just the power of that, you really can't underestimate it. And in homeschooling, people talk about read alouds. I feel like this is kind of the same thing. You share a story and it creates this culture in your family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and one of the things that we love and strive to do is create these episodes that do spark conversation with families. And we want kids to ask their parents, "Hey, we heard this on an episode. What do you think about it?" Or, "Hey, I heard that Connie managed to get through this difficult situation by XYZ," and then having those family conversations. So, Emily, I completely agree. It is a great way to shape that family culture and that dynamic and encourage those conversations.
Yeah, and that kind of segues into another thing on my list. So I don't know if you know this, Megan, but when you tell someone that you homeschool, first thing they'll say to you is, what about the socialization of your kids? It is a hot topic in homeschooling. And so, again, this might sound kind of strange, but I feel like Odyssey has served as a sort of form of socialization for my kids because it has allowed us to experience things, to, meet almost people in different situations that at the ages of 8 and 5 that my kids might not encounter just in normal everyday life. And so you're right, like those conversations that we're having, the questions that are asked, just the rich diversity of experience that my kids are getting through listening to these stories. I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's one of the things that I love about Imagination Station stories in particular, because you get to go to places and meet people that you're not going to, like historical figures and biblical figures, and experience some of those stories that we're not going to. So I totally agree, Emily. I also think that Adventures in Odyssey, that the characters are so relatable that it is easy to connect in those situations. And like you said, experience the situation with the characters. One of the stories last year or so, one of the characters, Olivia, went through a really challenging situation. And we had fans reaching out saying things like, we're praying for Olivia and we're connected to her. And that just warms my heart, because even though these are fictional characters, they are so relatable that kids are connecting with them, and kids feel like they're going through and learning these situations with them. So I just think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it really is. And I think I kind of know the story arc that you're talking about, because if it is the one where Olivia was kind of questioning her faith a little bit, that spurred a lot of great conversation. That's a wonderful example with my daughter. And she actually at the same time had a little friend at our homeschool group who was experiencing similar doubts. And so it was amazing, and I think divine, really, that she had gone through this situation, with Olivia and Odyssey, and then was able to have context for what her little friend was experiencing. And so I just thought that was really neat. And again, something that I wouldn't have thought to talk to her about, or would have been weird for me to bring up without any context. But again, the story let us talk about it in a really natural way that prepared her for life situation.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love hearing how kids are being prepared, and families are able to come together and, like you said, have conversations that maybe wouldn't never have come up before, and yet they're able to process through it and engage with these characters. So that's amazing. Love that.
Yeah, and I think also it's fun too, because those stories, that the ones that I would have listened to as a young child, that my mom and dad would have listened to, my kids still talk to them about those. And so it's really interesting because, my daughter will say something, Grammy, do you remember when, such and such happened in Odyssey? And she'll say, yes. And this, and this, it just gives context to what they're experiencing in life, and then serves as a launching pad, even third generation for my mom, who's now a Grammy, to talk about things again that might not have just come up, but there's that context and that beauty of, we have something to relate this situation to. So I just can't say enough about that. The other thing that I've been thinking about is, we have a pretty typical just nuclear family in our family situation. There's me, the mom, my husband, the dad, and we have 2 kids. There are families of all types in Odyssey. And that we have found to be so helpful navigating situations with our kids. It has helped them develop empathy. It's helped them understand that not every situation is like ours, and in some ways that maybe we can reach out to those families and be helpful. So that would be another great example. Are there any other sort of common social situations that you hear about that families talk to you a lot about, where this has really helped them process with their kids?
Really, Emily, the things that you have touched on are the common things. It's my kids were struggling with this situation at school, and listening to Odyssey help them process through it. And the family examples, you're absolutely right. We have lots of different family types in Odyssey, and just the importance of those relationships and empathy, like you said, and how to relate to different people from different backgrounds and different situations. I think the other thing that we hear a lot, which I think is going to be no surprise to you, is just when characters struggle with or work through their own faith, how much it has impacted kids that are listening. And that just reinforces that kids are always listening and taking in and absorbing the information that they're receiving. And so, we hear a lot of stories that like when Eugene became a believer, that was a huge impact on kids and helped them walk through it and process through it as well. We have heard stories of adults. In fact, we just heard a story not too long ago about a gentleman who unfortunately he was in the hospital and he was about ready to pass away, and all he wanted to do was listen to Odyssey. And so just the peace that Odyssey brings, the ability to kind of escape and dive into those stories, whether they're historical or biblical or just stories of Odyssey, have really brought a lot of peace and comfort to families in lots of different situations.
That's an amazing story that you just told. And I think it's really a testament to the quality of Odyssey, because so much of what we see that's produced for kids is just such low quality. And it's always about, the cheap laugh. Odyssey is not cheesy. It is a very rich storytelling that truly is appealing to everyone, no matter what your age is. And so I think that you couldn't have received a higher compliment than what you just told. So just a few weeks ago, we were studying Paul Revere. And so I turned on the episode where Mr. Whitaker kind of does the myth busting about the Paul Revere poem, truth versus fiction. And my kids just thought that was so fun. That was what we got to do for school that day in social studies. And so there are really endless ways that you can use Odyssey in your homeschool. The thing that I love about it most, and I know, again, you hear this all the time, this is my last one, but my favorite, because Odyssey always, always, always reinforces the biblical values that my husband and I are trying to instill in our kids. There might be a bad attitude, but it gets fixed. They might be disrespectful to their parents, but it always comes around to that is corrected, and that they are given the biblical reason for the behavior that their parents are looking for, which again is such an amazing tool. What do you hear about that, Megan?
Yeah, that's exactly one of the things I was just actually reading. We have what we call our Odyssey Writer's Bible, and it just kind of lays out everything that you would need to know as a writer, whether it's the character development, the town of Odyssey. But that exact thing, Emilie, that you're talking about is Odyssey will always bring the situation to a resolution. And that might be a happy resolution. That might mean also, though, that, the character has to suffer some consequences, to where it's like, we're never going to just shove something under the rug, or we're never going to just sugarcoat something. There's always going to be a resolution to whatever the story, whatever the situation, whatever the conflict might have been in those episodes. And so we hear that constantly, that families are so grateful for just the wholesome, the biblical values. They don't have to worry about what their kids are listening to. I mean, we constantly hear families talking about how, their kids fall asleep listening to Adventures in Odyssey. And that's something that's really, really incredible, to be able to just have that confidence that as your child is drifting off to sleep, that they are hearing something good and valuable and grounded in those biblical values. So we definitely hear testimony of that all the time.
Yeah, I mean, truly, as a mom, you cannot underestimate the value of that, because there are so few things that we can trust. And so I appreciate, that for almost the last 40 years of my life, Odyssey has been that trusted source, and it's so special to get to share it with my kids. So back in the day, Megan, I don't know, it sounds like you actually listened to Odyssey on the radio, which would blow my kids' minds now, to actually just turn on a real radio and listen to it. They're used to having it all at their fingertips. But what are the best ways for families to find Adventures in Odyssey today?
Well, we do still broadcast on the radio, and on our website, adventuresinodyssey.com, there is a page that you can go to find the radio station in your area that still broadcasts that. So radio is still an option, but we also have the Adventures in Odyssey Club, and that is, it's on a screen, but it's a streaming service. And so by being a member of the Adventures in Odyssey Club, your family would have full access to the entire library of Adventures in Odyssey, but not just the audio dramas. We have some videos, we've got podcasts, we have devotions that go with all of the episodes as well. And then there's some fun activities, different coloring pages or activity pages. So it's a really engaging app for families to connect with Adventures in Odyssey as well.
Yeah.
We do still have albums right now, but the radio and the Adventures in Odyssey Club is definitely the two ways that I would highly recommend connecting with Odyssey.
Yeah, and we're in the fall period right now. And I know as a mom, I'm constantly being asked by grandmas and aunts and uncles, for Christmas gift ideas. And so I think the Odyssey Club would be an awesome idea for families to subscribe to as a gift subscription. So maybe we'll link back to that page where people can find it easily, because there's no muss, there's no fuss, there's no more toys in your house. And yet it provides literally hours and hours of entertainment and just good family time. So
absolutely. Yep. It's a great tool. My family uses it. My nephews have their own playlist that they've created. So it's definitely a great tool.
Yeah, it's really fun. My family uses it literally every day. So Megan, as we wrap up here, do you have just one really fun story that as a little girl listening to Odyssey, you couldn't have imagined happening to you now?
Oh man, that's a great question. So I also watched like the Adventures in Odyssey animated movies, and so when I those are the pictures of the characters that I have in my mind, just kind of built from that. But really, it's been, Emilie, it's not been when I was a little girl. It's been some of those moments of my nephews will say, "Hey, did you listen to this episode?" And it may have been one that I listened to as a kid, but now listening to it and through them has been probably the best part of all of this, is just reconnecting with them. And reconnecting with the Odyssey characters. Now, I definitely have my favorites. I love the adventure episodes, so the ones where Jason Whittaker is running off and saving the world from something. But then I also really just love the good, sit down at the counter and chat with Mr. Whittaker types of episodes. So I've got my favorites. I've got my favorite characters, but like I said, it's really just been a pure joy to re-experience it with my nephews and kind of see it through and hear it through their eyes and ears.
Yeah, it's so fun. Well, Megan, thanks for being here with us today. I'm going to link back to the Odyssey page and to the Odyssey Club and all of those things in the show notes. So hopefully everyone will check that out. If they're not familiar with Odyssey, we'll get some new fans here.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Emilie. I really appreciate the time as well.
Yeah, thanks, Megan. And for everyone else, I hope you'll join me next week for the next episode of Heart and Soul Homeschool.
Heart and Soul Homeschool is a podcast presentation of the Herzog Foundation. The views and opinions expressed on the show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the views of the Herzog Foundation. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode of Heart and Soul Homeschool.